I'm just gonna say it straight. The theory I'm about to break down has been living in my head like a glitch in the sacred timeline, quietly pulsing, refusing to disappear, and every time I re-examined it, it only grew more convincing. And I've broken down these details in such a way that they'll leave you shocked. And trust me, you'll only understand the full theory if you watch till the very end. Because if what I'm about to lay out is right, then Marvel hasn't just set up Doctor Doom as the next big villain. They've been hiding his fingerprints on the multiverse since Phase 4 without most people even realizing it. In fact, I think the upcoming Avengers Doomsday movie is disguising a twist that might actually rival or even surpass the reveals we got in Infinity War and Endgame. And the wildest part? The secret didn't come from what Marvel released, but from what they didn't release. A movie that never got made, but whose ghost is still shaping the entire multiverse saga. So, welcome back to MovieCast. I'm Liam Harrison, and today I'm gonna take you through the theory that changed the way I understand everything Marvel has been building since Loki Season 1. And I promise you, once these pieces start clicking together, you might feel that same shiver I felt when I realized none of this was random. None of it was improvised. Marvel didn't abandon the Kang dynasty, they evolved it. Because Kang's story was always leading to one man, Victor Von Doom. When Marvel originally announced the Kang dynasty, it was clear that Kang was supposed to be the Thanos of this era. That was the marketing, the design, the roadmap. But as the months went on, something felt off. The rewrites, the sudden emphasis on multiversal fractures, the shift away from Kang-centric buildup, and then the shocker. The movie gets retitled Avengers Doomsday. For a while, people treated it like Marvel panicked and changed direction. But the more I studied it, the more I saw something different, something intentional. It felt less like a rewrite and more like an evolution. As if the Kang dynasty's DNA was still inside Doomsday, just reorganized into a new creature. And that's when this idea hit me with a force I genuinely wasn't ready for. What if Kang and Doom were never meant to be separate threats? What if the entire Kang storyline wasn't about Kang conquering, but about Kang stopping someone else from rising? The Conqueror wasn't protecting himself, he was protecting something bigger. And the more I dug, the more the clues lined up. Loki revealed that he who remains pruned every dangerous Kang variant. But what if the first threat he had to wipe out wasn't another Kang at all, but Doom? And not just the Doom we know from the comics, but the primal version of Doctor Doom, the one destined to rewrite reality itself. This changes everything, because it implies that Kang's biggest achievement wasn't ending the multiversal war, it was eliminating his most unstoppable rival before that rival even existed. And once I recognized that possibility, the entire structure of the multiverse saga reframed itself. Kang didn't simply create the sacred timeline to keep variants in check. He created it to surgically remove the one future that made him vulnerable. He built a timeline where Doom's origin was impossible, not suppressed, not delayed, erased. And when I tried to imagine what that erasure would even look like, that's when the theory snapped into focus with such clarity that I had to stop and walk away from my desk for a minute. Because the cleanest, most elegant way to remove Doom from the timeline is to overwrite him, replace him, insert someone else into the position Doom was meant to occupy. Someone the MCU already treated as foundational. Someone whose existence reshaped the entire franchise. And yes, I know this sounds absolutely insane at first, but hear me out, because the logic behind it is disturbingly airtight. The theory I landed on, and I'm not the first to float it, but I think I've connected it in a way that finally makes it make sense, is that the sacred timeline version of Victor Von Doom never grew up to become Doom, because his childhood was replaced by the birth of someone else, Tony Stark. Not Tony literally being Doom, not Tony being secretly sinister, nothing like that. Instead, Tony's existence in the sacred timeline takes the slot Doom was supposed to fill. Think about how massive Tony's impact is on the MCU. His arc isn't just important, it's structural. He becomes the cornerstone of the Infinity Saga, the linchpin of Earth's defense, the mind that inspires a generation of heroes, and the sacrifice that stabilizes the universe after Thanos' snap. That level of narrative weight doesn't happen by accident. And in universe, it might not have happened naturally either. What if Tony Stark isn't just a hero? What if he's a temporal safeguard? A living guardrail placed by Kang to keep the universe on the safe path? The path where Doom never emerges? That would mean Tony's genius, his destiny, even his sacrifices all contribute to preventing the rise of the one adversary Kang could never defeat. And that's where this theory becomes chilling, because when Sylvie kills He Who Remains, she doesn't just unleash Kang variants, she destroys the protection that kept Doom suppressed. The sacred timeline wasn't just order. It was a cage built to contain the most terrifying mind in existence. The instant that cage breaks, reality begins snapping back toward its original state, the state that includes Victor Von Doom. Suddenly, all the timeline fractures, the incursions, the instability we see after Loki Season 1, they all take on a new meaning. They're not just side effects. They're symptoms of something trying to re-emerge. Something that had been forcibly overwritten finally finding the cracks to slip through. And that something is Doom. A Doom who was removed so thoroughly that his return doesn't look like a villain appearing, it looks like reality correcting itself. Doom isn't entering the MCU. Doom is restoring himself. And that makes Avengers Doomsday feel completely different when you look at the title through that lens. The name isn't just dramatic branding, it's literal. It's the day Doom reappears in a universe that tried to erase him. And there's a specific reason why Marvel choosing Dr. Doom as the new central force makes perfect sense once you zoom out. Because the Doom they seem to be building toward isn't just the genius monarch of Latveria or the armored tyrant with mystical talents. They're hinting at the Doom from the pre-Beyonder Secret Wars era. A Doom who rivals cosmic beings, who studies the structure of reality, who weaponizes knowledge the way most characters weaponize strength. A Doom who steals power from gods because he believes he's more suited to it. A Doom who doesn't just fight adversaries. He outthinks the universe itself. And suddenly, Kang rewriting him out of existence feels less like villainy and more like desperation. And here's the final thing I realized in this first major chunk of the theory, something that ties all these threads into one unnervingly clean loop. Doom has always been portrayed in the comics as a character the universe cannot permanently reject. He's been erased, he's been banished, he's been killed, he's been rewritten, and yet somehow, some way, he always returns to his true self. Fate bends for Doom. Reality bends for Doom. The multiverse bends for Doom. And if Marvel is borrowing even a fraction of that idea, then the story they're telling isn't just about a villain rising, it's about a force that was never truly gone. A force that was simply waiting for the timeline to crack open wide enough to let him through. And now that Kang's cage has shattered, Doom is waking back up. Not because he was summoned. Not because he was discovered. But because the universe finally remembered him. Once I started looking at Doom's return as a kind of multiversal memory snapping back into place, everything that followed Loki Season 1 suddenly clicked into a frighteningly unified pattern. It wasn't random chaos. It wasn't the multiverse breaking for fun or convenience. It wasn't Marvel trying to shock us with a bunch of branching timelines. Instead, it felt like the universe itself had been stretched too far from its natural shape, and now it was violently recoiling back toward its true form. If Doom was overwritten by Kang, then Doom's re-emergence wouldn't be a dramatic entrance, it would be a structural collapse. The walls holding him back start buckling, cracks spread across the temporal foundation, and suddenly, everything begins rewriting itself. That's why every post-Loki project seems to feature timelines fracturing, variants spawning, incursions looming, and cosmic forces acting jittery or unstable. We're not witnessing a new threat rising. We're witnessing the timeline struggling to remember everything it was forced to forget. Doom isn't being born, he's being remembered. And the moment I realized that, I couldn't help but revisit every multiversal moment in phases 4 and 5 with that lens. Strange's spell in No Way Home? A crack. Wanda dreamwalking in Multiverse of Madness? A fracture. Clea opening a portal into the dark dimension? Another fracture. Even the TVA falling apart at the end of Loki Season 2 feels like the moment the dam finally bursts. Doom was never gone, just displaced. And the displacement is over. But this idea takes on an even sharper edge when you apply it to Kang himself. Because if Kang truly rewrote Doom out of the timeline, then Kang's power wasn't just temporal, it was surgical. He wasn't pruning branches. He was replacing foundational pieces. But once Sylvie kills him, the sacred timeline loses its anchor. Every timeline that was once forced into a single continuous stream now tries to snap back into the tangled multiverse it used to be. That's when the rewritten pieces begin destabilizing. And the most unstable piece of all is the one holding Doom's place. Remember how I said Tony Stark might have been Kang's greatest safeguard? This is where things get disturbingly poetic. Tony's death in Endgame is what breaks that safeguard. With Tony gone, the space Doom once occupied becomes exposed, like a ghost limb itching its way back into reality. And think about what Strange warns: incursions. Universes colliding because they can't reconcile two versions of the same truth. That's Doom reasserting himself. That's Doom's destiny pushing into the void left by Tony. Not Doom replacing Tony, but Doom replacing what Tony was created to prevent. And this becomes even more chilling when you think about how Loki ends with the multiverse expanding faster than anyone can control. He who remains was the cork. Sylvie removes him. Doom is the pressure waiting beneath. And when the cork is gone, the force beneath it doesn't politely wait its turn, it erupts. Now, here's where this theory took me to a place that made the hairs on my arm stand up. And I genuinely mean that. Because if Doom is returning through cracks in the timeline, that means his arrival shouldn't look like a traditional villain entrance. It wouldn't be an invasion. It wouldn't be a declaration. It would be anomalies. It would be artifacts. It would be pieces of Doom's identity bleeding through the holes in reality. And suddenly, all those multiversal breadcrumbs Marvel sprinkled, the strange armor hints, the Latveria whispers, the energy patterns that don't match Kang's signature, they stop looking like Easter eggs and start looking like symptoms. A universe glitching as it tries to reintroduce someone it once forcibly removed. And that leads into the next major reveal of this theory. What kind of Doom are we getting when he fully pulls himself back into the MCU? Because Marvel has been quietly signaling something through the comics, especially the 2024 run where Doom confronts Galactus. That storyline shows Doom in a condition we've never quite seen him in before, wounded, vulnerable, and reliant on a new form of armor made from Uru and vibranium. That combination alone is a statement. Uru is celestial myth forged into metal. Vibranium is the MCU's purest symbol of technological brilliance and earthly power. Together, they represent the two pillars of Doom's identity: science and sorcery, logic and destiny, man and God. And if Marvel brings that version into the MCU, then Doom isn't just coming back, he's coming back more complete than ever. This matters for one simple reason. Doom's armor isn't a weapon. It's a life support system. The comics make that absolutely clear. After the Galactus incident, Doom is alive only because Valeria creates a hybrid suit that essentially holds his existence together. That detail is quietly monstrous, because it means Doom's survival is engineered. It means Doom exists not because he's invincible, but because someone always drags him back from the brink. Someone always preserves him. Someone always ensures that Doom remains Doom. That idea blends disturbingly well with the concept that the multiverse itself is trying to restore him. If Doom is a fixed point of destiny, a necessary constant, then his erasure by Kang wasn't just an act of conquest. It was a violation of reality. A violation reality has been trying to correct since the moment he who remains died. Doom returning in the armor forged from Uru and vibranium symbolizes that correction. It's not a suit. It's prophecy crystallized into metal. And when you stack that imagery against the collapsing timelines of the Multiverse Saga, suddenly Doom's presence stops feeling optional. He feels inevitable. But let me push this one level deeper, because this is where the storytelling brilliance of Doom truly reveals itself, and where Marvel's potential plan becomes thrillingly bold. Doom doesn't simply survive the impossible. Doom learns from it. In Secret Wars issue 10, there's this incredible sequence where Doom studies the Beyonder with the patience of a physicist watching a star. He maps energy signatures, behaviors, reactions, not because he wants to admire them, but because he wants to exploit them. Doom is the only villain in Marvel who stares at a cosmic god and thinks, if I can understand you, I can surpass you. That panel has been living rent-free in my mind for years because it encapsulates Doom perfectly. He is not defined by ambition or ego or cruelty. He is defined by obsession, by refusal, by an absolute insistence that no force, not magic, not science, not destiny will exist above him. If the MCU introduces that version of Doom, the tone of the entire saga shifts instantly. This isn't a war of armies. This is a war of intelligence. A war of strategy. A war of inevitability. Kang sees time as territory to conquer. Doom sees the universe as a puzzle to solve and then own. And that makes Doom infinitely more terrifying. And when you combine Doom's intelligence with the idea that his timeline was overwritten, a terrifying picture emerges. Doom will not simply rise as a villain. He will rise with memory. Maybe not literal memory, though that's possible, but with an intuitive sense that something was taken from him. Something was denied. Something about his existence was bent, twisted, erased, and then restored. Imagine a villain who not only seeks power, but carries the rage of a displaced god. A man whose identity was stolen by the timeline itself. A man who feels the universe owes him a debt. That kind of Doom doesn't just conquer for glory. He conquers to reclaim, to repair, to restore what he believes the multiverse stole. And that is precisely the kind of villain who would trigger an event named Doomsday. Not because he wants to end the world, but because his return inherently destabilizes everything Kang forced into place. Doom is not a threat. Doom is a correction. Doom is the universe trying to put itself back together, violently, relentlessly, inevitably. Now imagine what that means for the heroes. Not only do they face the rise of Doom, they face the collapse of the foundational reality they've lived in since Iron Man 1. Their entire universe was shaped to stop one man. Tony Stark's legacy, Strange's sacrifices, Loki's transformations, Wanda's multiversal echoes, all of it was part of a timeline that only existed because Doom didn't. But now Doom does. And the universe they thought was sacred turns out to be artificial, temporary, designed. That means Doomsday isn't just a crisis event, it's the discovery that the MCU itself is a restructured timeline built on a lie. And Doom is the truth emerging from beneath it. That, to me, is the boldest direction Marvel could possibly take. Not just introducing a villain, but revealing that the villain was removed by the last villain. Kang wasn't the big bad, he was the dam holding back the actual big bad. And the dam has burst. The moment I started seeing Doom not as a new threat, but as the returned original state of the multiverse, I realized something important about how Marvel might structure Avengers Doomsday. Because if Kang's entire plan was built on erasing Doom at the root, rewriting his childhood, replacing his position in the timeline, suppressing every branch where he rises. Then his collapse doesn't just allow Doom to return. It triggers Doom's return. It forces it. Doom's re-emergence isn't a consequence of bad luck or multiversal instability. It is the inevitable repercussion of undoing Kang's edit to reality. And that changes the entire emotional stakes for the MCU's heroes. For them, Doomsday won't feel like a villain suddenly showing up. It'll feel like the universe itself going into spasm. It'll feel like their own history reshaping itself under their feet. Imagine the Avengers slowly realizing that every crack in time, every duplicate universe, every incursion event isn't leading toward Kang or variants or Council of Timelines. It's leading towards someone the universe is trying to resurrect. And Doom is that resurrection. He is the multiverse's original blueprint, reasserting itself. And this makes the idea of him arriving with a hybrid armor of Uru and vibranium almost symbolic. A physical testament to a man who bridges two domains, two destinies, two philosophies. The multiverse doesn't just want Doom back. It wants Doom back in his most complete, most terrifying, most inevitable form. But if that's true, if Doom is the multiversal constant that reality is desperately trying to restore, then the next question becomes, what does Doom want once he arrives? And this is where the theory reaches its peak, because Doom's motivations have always been one of Marvel's most fascinating paradoxes. He is selfish, yet principled, ruthless, yet logical, dangerous, yet deeply driven by his own warped sense of justice. What happens when a man who believes he should rule everything learns that the timeline itself once erased him? What happens when he realizes that the greatest violation in his life wasn't losing his mother to Mephisto, or surviving the explosion that scarred his face, or being rejected from the academic world, but the universe altering its own architecture to prevent his rise? If Doom realizes that Kang rewrote reality to keep him from becoming himself, then Doom isn't just fighting for power anymore. He's fighting for vindication, for restoration, for cosmic revenge. It's no longer a battle between hero and villain. It becomes a battle between a man and a universe that wronged him. And in that sense, Doom's arrival creates a conflict unlike anything Marvel has tackled before. Thanos changed the universe. Kang tried to control it. But Doom will want to correct it, which means a full invasion of the multiverse may not be his plan. Instead, his plan might be to rebuild everything in the image of the multiverse he believes was stolen from him. And that version of Doom, the Architect Doom, the God Emperor Doom archetype, is exactly the kind of villain who elevates the MCU into legendary territory. This is where the potential connection to Secret Wars becomes crucial. In the comics, Doom doesn't just participate in Secret Wars, he defines it. He hijacks the Beyonder's power, reshapes reality, and creates Battleworld, a place stitched together from broken universes. And if the MCU wants to deliver a multiversal finale that feels earned, emotionally rich, and narratively huge, then making Doom the architect of the next cosmic convergence is the smartest move they can make. Because Doom's motivation wouldn't be abstract. It wouldn't be about domination for domination's sake. It would be personal. Doom would be rebuilding the multiverse not as a tyrant, but as a man reclaiming his throne. The multiverse collapses because Doom's reemergence destabilizes the sacred timeline. Kang's edits fall apart. The universe fractures into battle-ready shards. And in that chaos, Doom steps into the vacuum with a plan. A plan born from the obsession, intelligence, and ambition that make Doom who he is. Imagine the Avengers realizing they're not fighting a conqueror or a destroyer. They're fighting a universe trying to revert to its original setting. They're fighting a timeline trying to remember itself. They're fighting destiny, not villainy. And Doom is the face of that destiny. That's why the title Doomsday is so brilliant. It's not about the day Doom destroys everything. It's the day the universe reboots to accommodate him. But here's where everything ties into the biggest twist of this entire theory, and this is the part that clicked so hard for me that I sat back and said, okay, if Marvel pulls this off, it would be the boldest narrative decision they've ever made. The twist is that the multiverse didn't fracture because Kang died. It fractured because Doom started waking up. Sylvie killing He Who Remains didn't release Kang variants, it released suppressed futures. Doom's future. Doom's potential, Doom's destiny. That's why the cracks widen over time. That's why incursions accelerate. That's why Strange's tampering becomes exponentially more dangerous. Kang's death didn't destroy the sacred timeline. Doom's return did. As Doom pushes his way back into existence through memories, artifacts, distortions, energy signatures, anomalies, the universe begins reshaping itself in anticipation. The timeline isn't chaotic. It's preparing. It's reorganizing. It's clearing space for the constant it once erased. And this means that the final confrontation in Avengers Doomsday won't be about preventing Doom from rising. It'll be about understanding that Doom has already risen. He was rising the moment the sacred timeline cracked. The moment He Who Remains died. The moment incursions began. Doom is not the cause of the crisis. He is the crisis made flesh. Now, imagine how this affects the heroes emotionally. They've already lost Tony. They've already been fractured by the blip. They've already been shaken by a multiverse that keeps revealing deeper complexities. But now they're told that the universe they fought to preserve, the universe Tony died to protect, may not have been the real universe at all. It was Kang's design. A containment field. A safeguard. Tony Stark's legacy becomes tragically recontextualized. He wasn't just a hero. He was the replacement piece in a cosmic puzzle designed to keep Doom from rising. And that doesn't taint Tony's legacy, it elevates it. Tony becomes the guardian of a reality meant to keep Doom asleep. But with Tony gone, Kang dead, and the sacred timeline shattered, the universe no longer has its guardrails. Doom's original fate, long suppressed, begins overriding Kang's edits. And that leads directly into the kind of climax a movie titled Doomsday demands. Not a showdown with a traditional villain, but a confrontation with a man who believes the multiverse has wronged him and is willing to rewrite it from the ground up. For a character like Doom, this isn't madness. This is justice. And for the Avengers, this isn't a fight they can win with brute force. This is a fight they have to understand to survive. Everything I've broken down points to this inevitable endpoint. Doom will rise not as a replacement for Kang, not as an afterthought, and not as a rushed fix, but as the multiversal centerpiece the MCU was always moving toward. The Kang dynasty wasn't scrapped. It was absorbed into a larger narrative where Kang's greatest act wasn't conquering time, but trying to hold back the one man whose existence could outthink him. The MCU didn't downgrade the threat. They upgraded it. They traded a conqueror for a god-tier strategist, a dimensional architect, a myth forged from wounded destiny. And if the rumors are true, if the Doomsday teaser really is coming this December alongside Avatar, Fire Nation, then Marvel is preparing to reveal the first glimpse of that inevitability. The armor, the energy patterns, the Latverian insignia, the throne. Something that confirms Doom isn't entering the MCU, he's returning to it. Something that tells the audience that the multiverse didn't break. It woke up. And now Doom is awake with it. And that is the heart of this entire theory. Doom is the multiverse restored to its natural shape. Doom is destiny, correcting the anomaly called the sacred timeline. Doom is the final equation Kang tried to delete. And Avengers Doomsday isn't just another superhero movie. It's the moment the MCU acknowledges that its own history was a temporary rewrite, finally unraveling. If Marvel follows this path, then Doom won't just be the villain of one film. He'll be the gravitational center of the entire multiverse saga. And honestly, he should be. He's that dangerous. He's that brilliant. He's that mythic. Doom is Marvel at its most operatic. And we are finally heading toward a story big enough to deserve him. So if that teaser drops in December and really goes all in on Doom, don't be surprised. Marvel didn't abandon the multiverse saga, they elevated it to something even more ambitious. And Doom is the crown on that plan. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. And a massive thank you to everyone who's supported MovieCast, especially those who've sent in a super thanks, including the incredible $20 support from earlier this week. You're the reason I can keep diving into theories this wild. I'll see you in the next one.